Good afternoon, South Africa. Welcome to Afternoon Express and welcome to Jeannie D. She's decided to grace us with her presence again. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. So good to be back.
Now, the environment you grow up in has a large influence on the decisions that you make in your life. And sometimes we're lucky enough to come across people that will empower us and believe in us and give us the tools to better our lives. And today on the show, we meet 5FM radio presenter and producer Nonala Tose, who's been selected as a National Development Plan ambassador.
She is absolutely incredible. Today we've got so many inspiring people in the loft. We also meet author, poet and addiction social worker Desiree-Anne Martin, who recently launched her debut memoir titled We Don't Talk About It Ever. Her book describes with brutal honesty her story of addiction, depression and ultimately recovery.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful story. I can't wait to chat to her. And you can join in the conversation as usual on our social media platforms and tell us if you ever assisted anyone in your life in their recovery journey with addiction and substance abuse by tweeting us at Afternoon Chat or using the Afternoon Express hashtag, or pop over to our Facebook page and leave us a comment.
Now, later on in the show, we also zone in on our journey with our furry friend, Baxter, and chat to animal behaviorist, Barbara George, about cat personalities and what influences their personality type. But we've got somebody else that's just as cute in the loft today.
Good afternoon, I'm Palisa Tembe, and I'm here with my favorite, Mr. Clem. And listen, we're always making such mouth-watering dishes in the kitchen, and today is no different. Today, we kick it up a notch by making an amazing best ever bunless crunch veggie burger. Chef Clem, I'm already drooling.
This is perfect for spring, which is happening in like a couple of weeks' time. This one's a winner.
Yes.
You're not going to miss the buns.
Can't wait. Yes, this is definitely a dish that you don't want to miss, and it is going to be massive. To get the ingredients list and link recipes sent to your phone, simply SMS the keyword EAT to 33650. SMSs are R1.50 each. No free SMSs apply, and you can also call anytime during the show on 021-430-9881. But before we get into all of that, let's start with Nonala Tose, who is the epitome of the word empowerment. She founded a unique development platforms called Boss Moves Girls and Women in Media that aims to help young women establish themselves in the media space through a series of workshops and online classes.
Welcome to the show, Nala. Now, that's one thing that I love as a girl boss.
Yes.
And you just do it so elegantly.
Thank you.
How did the whole idea come about?
So back in 2014, I was faced with a situation where I felt like I didn't know or find any mentors in the media industry. And I thought to myself, you know what, there has to be women out there who are doing what I want to do. And I got to realize that these are women that are, in offices, high up in buildings, creating productions. We never get to see them. And I was like, I want to know those women. I want to actually be in their space. And I'm sure there are a lot more other girls who want to do that too. And so I decided to create Boss Moves Girls and Women in Media. Bonnie was actually one of our first speakers when we started in 2014 here in Cape Town. And it's just really developed since, and I'm just so grateful.
Incredible. I mean, you have grown in leaps and bounds in your business and also just personally in the media space. And I think it's about time that something like this happens. Yeah. And also, are you trying to equip women on all aspects of media, obviously? Because I think when people think of media and entertainment, they only think on screen.
Yes,
they don't realize that it's an entire industry.
Yeah. Certainly, I mean, there are engineers in this industry. Right. There are, people who are creating content in this industry. There are people who are managers of marketing, sales, you name it, station managers, people who are really making key decisions. We never get to see them. It's great to see us. I mean, we're like gorgeous and everything, but there are women out there who are doing such amazing things, and they aren't on a platform where they can be examples to girls and women.
Wow. And also, I don't think there are enough women who are actually doing it. I did a campaign recently, and I wanted to work with a female camera person, a female sound person, and I actually struggled to find them. Enough of them that I would have a selection of who was the best female camera person and who was the best female sound technician. So I think sometimes a lot of women are put off because it is such a male-dominated industry. How do you go about finding these people?
So, I mean, Jeannie, these people are all around us. I mean, Patience Stevens of Cordova, who does Afternoon Express.
She's a boss, man.
Like a serious girl boss.
Yeah.
And we don't know about her. There's so little that is written about her and said about her. And I think it's, you know, those kind of women. So in every production, in everything that you see, there's a woman behind that who's really pushing it. And that's how we find them. We just look at what that platform is. And there's definitely a woman there who's making decisions. And if there isn't, there should be.
There should be. So you are planning on hosting a masterclass soon.
Yes.
Where is it going to be? What's going to be happening? Who's going to be on the panel?
All right. So we are hosting the 4th annual Boss Moves Girls and Women in Media in Midrand at MyTech Direct Center. And basically we have people like Patience Stevens on our panelists. We have people like Candice Morgan, who is a former presenter of Deaf TV. She's a Wits lecturer in sign language. She's actually part of the deaf community. And I think it's so important for us to get to know what it means and what it's like to be a person in the deaf community who is not able to access media, who's not able to enjoy media like we do. And how can we create that kind of content? We have people like Jessica Timms, who was a former YoTV presenter, who's now the executive producer at YoTV. People like Mutsirisi Mohano, who's part of Supersport. People like, we've got women like the station manager of Metro FM, Swongile Mjali, who's a part of a big radio station, one of the biggest in South Africa. So these are the kind of women that we have. And we also have other development organizations like the Media Diversity and Development Organization, which actually gives us, girls and women in media, the funds and the opportunities to actually create these platforms, whether it's radio stations, TV stations, publications, digital platforms. We've got the Film and Publications Board as part of it as well. So it's one big, really important.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not even an event; it's a workshop. It's a masterclass, like you said it.
Yeah,
I think it's so important. I mean, mentorship, I think, is so valuable.
It's so key.
But it's so difficult to mentor somebody.
It is.
We get asked constantly.
Yeah.
But it takes so much time.
Yes.
So I think it's so brilliant that you're doing these little online tutorials.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So the e-learning platform is something that we're graduating to right now. It's a big task that is ahead of us.
It is huge.
It is huge, but I mean, I think, you know, if you go to school to learn media, you learn media from your lecturer, which is great. But learning media from Jeannie D and from Bonnie is something totally different. You're learning media from people who walk this path, who know, you know, the ins and the outs of the actual job. So that's what our masterclass, our e-learning platform is about. And we're about to build it. It's going to be on bossmovesmedia.com. And it's just going to be a free platform where you can come on, Kid to Learn Media through the eyes of Jeannie, through the eyes of Bonnie, through the eyes of Patience, you know, all these incredible, not just women this time, but everybody who's in the media industry who's making all these boss moves.
That's congratulations on your ambassadorship.
Thank you.
Tell us more about it.
So the National Development Plan is it's the plan for 2030, towards 2030 for our country. And as a nation, it's our responsibility to kind of, you know, get together and do the best that we can to see a better future, a better South Africa. So as a National Development Plan ambassador, I basically have the responsibility to make sure that I initiate that change. So I'm doing that through platforms like Boss Moves, Girls and Women in Media, through platforms like trying to encourage, you know, the disability space to be something that is especially noticed and seen in the media industry, because we're not catering for people who are living with disabilities, and we do have a mandate to do that. So, I champion that kind of work, and yes, and that's what I'm doing, just developing and trying to make a change where I can.
Are you going to open it up to boys at some point?
Yes, so, you know, boys are definitely welcome. I mean, it's girls and women in media, but these are your moms, these are your sisters, these are your bosses. If you don't get to learn how they got there, even as a man or a young boy, you really find it hard to interact with them in the corporate space. So, you know, Boss Moves Girls and Women, I always say we like to develop girls, and it's great, but who are we hoping these girls are going to get married to?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't want to, successful women don't want to marry unsuccessful men.
No, we don't want to dishwasher.
And also we just don't want to neglect the boy child or the male or the man. Yeah,
so we develop girls as much as we do boys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Nonala. We're so proud of you.
Thank you very much.
We love you. We love having you here. Thank you so much. After the break, we meet another inspiring woman, Cape Town-born author Desiree-Anne Martin, who will be sharing her incredible story of how she went from addict to author. Plus, we learn about the factors that influence and mold cats' personalities with animal behaviourist Barbara George.
Whiskers, feed their curiosity.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. We're live on SABC3 where the stage is yours. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you own a cat, then you already know your cat has its own unique character and special behavior. And just as we're learning on our journey with Baxter and Whiskers, that each cat has a unique personality. Cat behaviorist Barbara George is here to help us unpack the influences of feline personality types. How are you, Barbara? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm fine, thanks.
Good. So one would be tempted to think that cats actually all have one personality trait, and that's just dismissive.
Well,
right?
It is, yes.
But they do have different personalities, and they like different things. And if you speak to cat lovers or cat owners, they'll tell you the differences between their cats. But what influences a cat's personality?
Well, genetics plays a big part. They inherit their core personality from their parents, but their personality is modified or enhanced by other factors such as their early upbringing, their history and experiences throughout their lives, and yeah, the atmosphere they live in, the environment they live in, the interaction with everything, with dogs, people, with everything.
Right.
It all forms part of their character and personality.
A cat like our Baxter over here, who has grown up in the studio around a lot of people, what kind of personality do you think he has now?
Well, if we can just backtrack a moment, there are basically 5 different types of personalities in cats.
Okay.
Although every cat is individual and every cat has part of each one. So you have the hunter cat, who is ferocious in their play, always active, always out there, jumping and experimenting. Then you have the human cat who loves people, and you have cats who love cats, and cats who are just generally inquisitive about the whole world and just want to know everything. And then you have cats who don't want to know anybody. They want to be on their own. And I find Baxter to be part hunter. He plays quite ferociously.
Yeah.
And he's got a very strong inner core personality as a cat. But he's also very human-orientated because of his experiences here with you, with living with these people and with Donut. So he's learned to integrate with that. Also, he's got a lot of white on him, which you can't see now, which is calming. So he has a calm side of him as well.
So you're saying that the cat's colour has an effect on its personality?
Yes, because colour is also genetically, or comes from genetics. So there are definite traits for different colours of cats.
Right.
So, and again, Baxter being a tabby, a black tabby, he's very aligned to the wild cat. So that he's wild, ferocious, hunting, exploring tendencies.
And generally just full black cats, what are their personalities like? Because they fascinate me. I'm always intrigued by them.
Black cats, unfortunately, come with a lot of history.
Oh, yeah.
So with all of their witches and things like that. So people have got perspectives on black cats.
So based on how people treat them.
The way you feel about them. Black cats are also aligned to wild cats, but they have a very sensitive side to them as well.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think there's so much to know and so much to learn.
And he's a gorgeous cat
yes,
too,
he is. And look at how he's side-eyeing Donut. So whichever personality your cat has, I'm sure they bring just as much joy and love as Baxter has brought into our family.
Whiskers, feed their curiosity.
I swear, I only thought that cats are feisty. That's the only personality trait I thought they had. So you don't have to have them buns to have the burger fun, hun. Today, I felt like I was just rapping there. Today, Kim prepares a mouth-watering bunless burger inspired by the Willie's latest plant-based recipes. This one has caught his eye and he thought it's perfect to prepare for us today.
Yeah, this is a great one.
I'm trying to stay away from the carbs. It's not easy, it's so difficult. So I see that you've prepared a little something for girls like me.
But I kind of find like this burger is a unique recipe on its own. It adds so much big flavor. And the main reason for that for me is with the veggie patties, you can see what's happening in the veggie patties.
Yes.
Let me actually show you. So you can kind of like see, what's that? A piece of corn. You can see the spinach, you can see the crushed meat. Normally, what color are veggie patties?
They're just like grey.
Grey. And this guy?
This is so colourful.
It's so colourful.
And I can see the brown, like it looks healthy. It's not like I'm questioning what's in my burger, what am I eating?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is, like, honestly, for me, one of the most delicious veggie burger patties. I'm not just saying that.
Yes.
I know this, because this guy is legit.
I've tried a couple of burger patties, veggie burger patties, and they just all taste the same to me.
Yeah. And don't they give your jaws a workout?
Forever,
like
chewing.
No.
I know all about it.
What I also love about this burger patty is you cook it like a real burger. So you get your pan nice and hot and smoking. We're going to use some avocado oil. That goes in there because we're keeping it plant-based.
Keeping it plant-based, I love it.
So you cook it like you would a normal burger patty. So nice brown color on them. It's already brown, I know that. But you get some good golden crunch in there. And the burger actually goes crunchy, which is everything.
That's everything because, again, with burger patties, something that I've really struggled with is balancing the textures of the dish, because I just feel like everything is mush.
Exactly.
It just goes all soft and mushy.
And especially if we start talking plant-based, vegetables, fruit, they kind of all have the same texture, like mush. So if you get something like this that actually has a bit of crunch, you are winning.
Winning all the way.
So let's talk about this. So you're the two that I cooked off earlier, nice and golden brown. We're going to start off with some more veggies. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of guacamole. You could choose either the plain or the zesty. I'm going for the zesty right now. That's going to be kind of like a bit of the glue that holds.
I like that tang and I like that bite that the zesty has.
If you want a little more bite, you can sprinkle some chili flakes on there. That would work. That would work.
That's my vibe.
Then some beautiful baby spinach leaves that goes on.
Gorgeous.
So you're not lacking at all. I mean, yeah, sure, you could be looking for the meat right now, but there's so many other flavors and textures going on that this is actually it's going to kind of like distract your brain a bit, you know what I mean?
And am I guaranteed to get full?
You know,
because I don't want to keep going back for some more.
People think that meats keep you fuller for longer. If you're using the right ingredients, the right fibers, the right grains in there, you're going to be fine.
Okay, perfect.
Then I've got some slaw over here. And you can actually just buy that. You can see over there, I got the slow packs already.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of saving you time. Along with being plant-based, it's also convenient.
Convenient. And this is a super quick recipe, super quick to prepare, super quick to cook through. So it's perfect for the moms, sisters, brothers on the go.
And also pretty easy for kids to do. You can pop this in the oven as well. They don't have to visit the pan. They can kind of help themselves and get themselves going.
Perfect.
Then talking about kids, you got to sneak in the goodness any way you can. I got some sprouts. The sprouts are great. I mean, that is always in our kitchen fridge, just for like snacking.
I hate being deceitful, but this is the perfect way to be deceitful. You're sneaking in that nutrients that kids do need.
Exactly.
And highly lacking in our diets,
There we go. Top the burger with our veggie bun. There we go. Look
and
at that. That is so easy. What I've done over there is we're talking about the crunch. You need that crunch.
Yes.
With the crunch, I've got some beautiful beetroot chips. Those are really great. I think there's never been a better time to be healthy, to be eating plant-based right now. So it's happening. It's happening.
I love beetroot chips and I also love sweet potato chips.
Look at you.
I know. Healthy, 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 healthy. Okay, so this is definitely going to be a dish that you want to make. To get the ingredients list and the link to the recipe, simply SMS the keyword EAT to 33650 and this will be coming straight to you. But here's a recap if you missed any of the steps. Oh, that looks absolutely delicious. Now, we've seen and heard it all before. The opportunity of a lifetime or get quadruple-digit returns. All of these empty lures that promise to help us get rich quick. Now, what we probably haven't heard before is that millions of people have lost their lifetime savings to pyramid and Ponzi schemes alike. We have SABRIC, Head of Relationship Management, Susan Potgieter here, to help us identify some of the most obvious signs of these types of scams. Welcome to Afternoon Express.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Wonderful to have you here. Now, what is the difference between, Ponzi and pyramid schemes? What do they each mean?
Right. They're both high-yield investment scams, but there is a difference. In the case of pyramids, you as the investor are expected to do something as well. And generally, you're expected to bring in more investors. And how they're structured is that you get rewarded for all the extra investors that you bring along. So there's an incentive for people to get, to involve family and friends and their club and so forth. And then everybody at the end of the day gets involved. And then unfortunately, when it collapses, everybody loses. In the case of Ponzi, slightly different. You're not expected to actually work. What you do is you invest the money, but what happens there is, as soon as the pool of new investors diminishes, then there isn't money to actually pay the original investors, some returns. So they also collapse eventually.
But now a lot of these criminals are dressed in suits because, I mean, Wall Street collapsed because of Ponzi schemes. So how can we protect ourselves from getting involved in things like this? Because often it looks like a very sound investment.
Yes. So I think the first rule is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't. So if you think about it, why would the formal financial services sector not offer those products if they were so reliable and so good? So be very, very cautious if you are offered very, very high percentage returns.
It's like gambling, essentially.
It's just a way, everybody wants to get rich quickly, so your greed is actually exploited. So be careful of, promises of very, very high returns. That is more than what you would get in the formal sector. Be careful if there's a sense of urgency. You've heard these ads. Get in now and make sure that you actually benefit from this particular scheme while it's new and so forth. That's also definitely a red flag.
This is in pyramid schemes?
Well, yes.
Ponzi's as well?
Well, both of them. There's always a little bit of a sense of urgency. And then something that's also a trend and a thread right across all of them is when you start delving into how does the scheme work, very often the promoter is quite secretive about it and the information isn't forthcoming. Now, that's also a warning sign.
Okay. So none of these Ponzi or pyramid schemes are, that can't happen to us from formal financial institutions?
Absolutely, because they're well regulated. So there are rules and regulations that everybody's got to comply with, and it's exactly that is often used in the marketing of pyramid schemes. The promoter will say, we're not bound or locked into all of these formalities. We are able to make it easy for you. And then, of course, they use social media. And,
how do they use social media,
for marketing, and they rely on you as the investor, if you believe the promises, to actually spread the word amongst your circle of friends.
So is that when you get those emails to invest with them?
And people share and circulate and so forth. And there's been a trend as well where they actually say, this is how you don't attract attention, within the formal banking sector. And there's been a drive to push them towards cryptocurrency as well, because these promoters don't want to be detected. And they know that the banks monitor for these kind of behaviors. So it's actually quite an interesting dynamic to see how social media has been a game changer in pyramid schemes.
And if I invest in a pyramid scheme, it's not illegal, but I will just lose all my money.
Well, it's probably, if you unpack the pyramid scheme, it's probably going to be a contravention of a whole lot of the regulation and rules that the financial sector has to comply with. But you as the investor putting in money in good faith, you haven't done anything wrong, but you need to understand that you're not going to be protected. You're probably going to lose that money when it collapses.
Wow. Thank you so much for clearing all of this up. It's such a vital need for us to be savvy with our money, because I think there's so many ways for us to be hoodwinked and robbed. Thank you very much for teaching us.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes to the internet, just about anything is on offer, including finding the love of your life. Apparently. There are thousands of dating sites that promise happily ever afters. But like every good fairy tale, there is always a villain, and online predators are always on the prowl for the next victim. Tune in next week to find out more from Susan about how to identify and avoid romance schemes altogether.
We are brave, innovative, everywhere. We are SABRIC.
So our next guest is a poet, author and social worker, Desiree-Anne Martin. And she went through a harrowing part in her life, but has come out victorious on the other side.
Now, not only is Desiree-Anne a wife, full-time mother, and part-time warrior woman, but she is also helping others overcome addiction.
Yay. Welcome to the Loft.
Thank you very much for having me.
I always say that if you can write a book about it, you've won. Seriously, because this must have been such a cathartic experience for you.
It was in turns cathartic and incredibly painful.
Yes, of course.
But it was, I think, a healing journey for me to finally put my story together and to finally put it out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a story, though. What a life that you've lived.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. What was your childhood like? What was your home life like?
Okay, so...
Let's start from the beginning of your story for us.
We can just say that my family tree was rotting with addiction in any kind of aspect that you can think of, whether it was alcoholism or gambling or codependency. There was just, if you shook my family tree, addicts would fall out, basically. And so I grew up having to fend myself against an unsafe environment, effectively. And also, what had also occurred, which comes out in the book, was that I was the unfortunate victim of childhood sexual abuse as well. Wow. And I wasn't able to speak about that.
And who were the perpetrators of this abuse?
There were quite a few male perpetrators, and it was family friends, and it was there was also a cousin involved, and there was just So it was people that I knew, and as it usually is, it's usually people that you do know. So, but I never spoke about it. Right. And actually, some of it was suppressed memories, and it only came out much later when I was processing it in a therapeutic space, and I was like, that happened to me. That actually happened to me.
Wow, that is insane. And then you apply to UCT, you get into the drama school,
yes,
but you're not able to go. And then you do a gap year in the UK.
A gap 4 years.
Gap 4 years?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a bad place, the worst place in the world to have a gap 4 years. But a lot went down those years, right?
No, that I think was the beginning of what I could consider my active addiction. Where my own alcoholism and my own addiction started and kind of spiraled out of control. And then when I came back to Cape Town, it really just launched and skyrocketed off into the stratosphere.
That was when you were introduced to heroin?
That is exactly when I was introduced to heroin, yes.
How does that happen? Because I've just, obviously in the news lately, we've heard about Demi Lovato now recently relapsing. Now, for me, I just think, and obviously I don't know much about it, but heroin seems so hectic. So how does a beautiful girl decide to spike herself?
A beautiful girl gets into a relationship with a heroin addict and thinks that her love is powerful enough to fix him, but unfortunately, his addiction is greater than
your ability to withstand or overcome.
And so it was a case of, well, if you can't beat them, join them, you know, because I was giving all my resources to funding his heroin addiction, and I was ticking off things off a list of things that I wouldn't do, and slowly started to tick it off. Okay, now I'm doing that, now I'm doing that, now I'm doing that now.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of the day, I just had to admit defeat. And yeah, it doesn't seem like a common thing to have happen, but it's more common than
we know.
And I think that's the scary thing with addiction, because I think, once you do the one thing, do you kind of look back and say, oh, okay, it wasn't so bad? And then, I mean, how does it progress and how rapidly?
It progresses through denial, because you think that you don't have a problem, and you think that you can handle it, and that you think that this is recreational, and you think that this is a party drug, and you're part of and that was back in just before the turn of the millennium, and everybody was doing it. So, my own addiction wasn't highlighted because I compared myself to other people, and I thought, okay, no, they're worse than I am, definitely,
Sure.
But my own denial.
Or at least I'm not doing that.
At least I'm not doing that. That list I was talking about earlier, yes, at least I'm not doing that. But eventually you get to the bottom of the list and you do those things. And
well, now you've written a compelling book, and you're a brilliant author.
Thank you so much.
Were you just always going to be this brilliant author?
I've always written. I've written compulsively and addictively since I was like about 10 years old. But it was only a few years ago, about 5 years ago, when I started going to writing workshops. And then I started my own blog about 2 years ago, and I started putting short stories out there. And then I continued going to writing workshops with the fabulous Melinda Ferguson, who's also
Melinda's amazing. She's incredible. We've had her here before.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I realized, actually, I can tell the story, but she kept pushing me to push through those closed doors, like the things that I didn't want to talk about. Yeah. And eventually...
Those rooms you want to keep locked for the rest of your life.
You know, that you just don't want to look at, that you don't want to talk about, and you certainly don't want to expose on a public level. And eventually I said, well, if I'm going to tell my truth, and if I'm going to put my truth out there, then I'm going to do all of it, and I'm going to do it as honestly, authentically, and with as much integrity as possible.
I know we're running out of time, but I have to quickly ask you before we go. What was your rock bottom that caused you to change your life around?
My addiction eventually led me to becoming a sex worker, and I did have a chance to go into rehab, and on my first weekend out, I decided that I was going to relapse. I was going to use, despite having 4 weeks of experience and being the perfect client. And then I had an experience that was so completely traumatic, and it's in the book, that made me realize that I can't do this anymore. So that was pretty much my rock bottom.
Made you turn your life around. Yeah. Wow, thank God you did.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I think this is a must-read.
Thank you so much.
Things we do not talk about ever. A memoir. Get it.
So remember to join in the conversation and tell us if you've ever assisted anyone in your life in their recovery journey or your own with addiction and substance abuse. Tweet us at Afternoon Chat using the hashtag Afternoon Express. We also have a Facebook page. Pop over there and leave us a post. You can also call us live on 021 430 9881.
After the break, we extend the chat with Andre Roux, who is an addiction social worker at Isanda Rehabilitation Centre.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, live on SABC3. Now, addiction is a complex disease that also causes serious damage to families, relationships, schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods.
Exactly. Now, Izande Rehabilitation Centre facilitates individualized clinical care for people suffering from addiction. And here today to take us through just what it takes to recover from the monster called addiction is addiction social worker Roux. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeannie.
Can anyone be an addict? Or does it take a particular personality type or a different, particular, like nature versus nurture? Like, can you be born an addict?
Yeah, of people saying, oh, when I was younger, in my younger days, I used to party hard and I did these drugs, and then one day and I was like, this isn't for me. And then you get people who are like, I just couldn't stop.
I think people are vulnerable. A certain group of people are vulnerable to addiction. It appears that there's a sort of vulnerability that if they use, given the right circumstances, that group of people would develop addiction. Other people have the insight or the awareness to stop before it gets too bad. So I think it's a vulnerability, really.
And do you think things play a part, like if you're like genetics, for example, like if your mom was an alcoholic, do you think the chance of you becoming an alcoholic through DNA or just from behaviour?
We don't know exactly because it seems to be both. But I think that when one grows up in a community and a home where it just seems okay, it's very difficult to learn other ways to love.
Okay.
Right. So people who come through your rehabilitation centre, what is their aim when they arrive? What do you want to see have happened to them the day they leave?
Yeah. To accept responsibility for recovery. A bit like if I referred to Desiree's story, is that aha moment when I say, I don't want to carry on like that. And people don't always come in with that willingness, but it can happen during treatment. You know, so very often I say to families, even if you've got to nudge them a little bit into treatment, hopefully they stay and they leave with the right understanding and acceptance.
Yeah. In your rehab facility specifically, what do you feel the majority of people are addicted to?
Multiple. It's very strange these days to see a person just addicted to one thing.
Really?
It's often a combination, or it's been a build-up of a history through chemicals and addictions. I think also in the rehab world, we've seen a lot more process addictions, which are the gamblings, the sex and love, the exercise, the shopping, the spending, you know, those kinds of
So people can go to rehab for being addicted to exercise?
Yes, yes. Because too much of anything becomes destructive. So it eventually has impact on their lives.
On their bodies.
And their bodies, and something's going to give. But also we do an assessment on the history of that person. And very often if somebody's got a substantial history, it requires treatment and intervention.
I'm definitely not an exercise addict.
No, no, me neither. But if somebody has an addiction on one thing, does it stand to reason that they would be addicted to something else? Like, do addictions go hand in hand? Like, does drug addiction and sex addiction kind of, or can somebody just be addicted to one thing? Or if you've got an addictive personality, do you generally just...
Yeah, they are more vulnerable, in my opinion, to substitute or to transfer their addictions.
Yeah.
So a lot of their acceptance is around really accepting that I have an addictive personality or addictive quality, and I've got to really manage my life. So a lot of what we teach them during treatment is how to have balance. That if you're going to have exercise, how does one do it in a balanced way?
Yeah.
If you're going to be spending, how do you do it in a balanced way?
I don't know how to spend in a balanced way. You might need to teach me that.
Shopping, big problem. So anyone who's watching, who perhaps their family member or a loved one they know is addicted to a substance, how do they begin that conversation of, hey, you really need help, this is really destroying your life? What are the key elements that need to be in that conversation or that intervention?
I think the biggest success factor is when a loved one or a person who cares say, I'm saying what I'm saying because I care about you. I am worried about what is happening, and let us work out a way together to get you the help that you possibly could need. And even if somebody says, why don't you just go and see somebody with us, and they can decide whether this is a problem or not.
Yeah. Sure.
Wow, that can't be an easy conversation to have.
No, it can't. And not everybody in our country can afford that kind of help or has those kind of resources available.
There are many, many accessible resources. The social development has got a 24-hour helpline. There are community resources, as in churches, religious groups, community services. There are many. There are the 12-step support groups as well.
We're going to put all of that information on our website, as well, afternoonexpress.co.com.
Afternoonexpress.co.za, yes,
That's the
so
one.
after the break, we chat to Master Reiki Markus van der Westhuizen about Reiki as therapy for recovering addicts.
Duo is double the goodness, double the happiness, made with love by Clover.
Welcome back. This is Afternoon Express, only on SABC3. The stage is yours. Now we're doubling it up today with Clover Duro as we learn more about the light contact healing mechanism from one to another, such as the practice of Reiki. We all know the importance of maintaining your well-being for your health, and it is just as important for recovery from addiction. To shed more light on the healing powers of Reiki, we are joined by Reiki Master Markus van der Westhuizen. Thank you so much for joining us in the loft.
Thank you for having
Markus,
me.
so I'm very open to new forms of healing, so I'm quite familiar with Reiki. But for some of our Afternoon Express family that is not as familiar, what is Reiki and how does it help in healing?
Okay, most people when they translate the term Reiki, they'll translate it to life force energy because it's a Japanese word. And when we really look at it in the Japanese dictionary, it just translates to aura. So it's our energy field that we have. So it's basically a form of energy healing or aura healing, hands-on healing. And it's to balance the body, balance the way the energies flow in the body, balance the organs, the glands, the hormones and everything. So it's a wonderfully relaxing treatment as well. It's very gentle.
I find that too. It soothes you so well into whatever you're trying to deal with. So in your experience from a rehab facility, in using Reiki, how does it help with addiction?
Well, I worked at Izande for about 8 years, working with the patients, and we found that they got in touch with their own energies, they got in touch with who they are and what they're all about. In my opinion, I find that people who are addicted or have addictive behavior, they are highly sensitive beings. So they get to sense emotions and feelings that are quite overwhelming at times, and they don't always know how to deal with that. And also I feel that they're looking for connection on some level. And so with Reiki, we help them to connect again to source energy, connect to their own source, connect to their own inner power, and get them balance back in their lives. So it's wonderfully appropriate and gentle sometimes, because we do exercises that's not so gentle. But it brings a good balance for them as well.
So obviously with anything, there are some skeptics, people who will be very critical of any sources of healing. I mean, when I first was introduced to Reiki, I thought to myself, how much is the actual transferring of the healing energy and how much is just a placebo effect? You know, when you tell yourself in your mind that this will work and it ends up working. What do you say about the mental space one needs to be in to receive that healing, and how much of it can be kind of broken off because one doesn't believe?
I've had quite a few skeptics that I dealt with. I actually like working with skeptics. Most of them will come through not believing anything, but when they open their eyes after a session, you can see the difference. I always say it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Go try it out, see what it feels like, because even if you don't believe in it, you'll feel wonderfully relaxed having had the treatment. And if you want to go on a very scientific spree and you want to go like there's no such thing as energy and whatever, it's been scientifically proven that when you place your hands onto the body, it actually, blood flow goes to the surface to where there's touch. And so we actually stimulate blood flow to the area. So if we want to take all the energy out of the story, we're stimulating blood flow within the body, but doing it very gently. And in Chinese medicine, qi and blood are interchangeable, they're the same thing. So that the ancient Asians, they understood that already. They understood that if you touch, you're bringing energy or qi or blood to that area. And
everything around us is exactly that, is just energy. So why can we not use that same energy to continue to heal, replenish and rebuild within ourselves? Thank you so much. I'm sure if anyone else needs more information on the Reiki and how it works, head over to our websites or our social media platforms for more information. This has been very, very, very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Clover Duo is double the goodness, double the happiness, made with love by Clover.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. And of course, today on the show, we tackled quite a big subject, I think, of addiction. And we had our fantastic guests here, Andre and Desiree, on the couch to really share some amazing stories with us. Your story is especially incredible. In closing, I think, if you could give any advice to any of our viewers watching who are dealing with addiction, what would it be?
I think I would just say that there is always hope. That would be the message in my book, and that is the message in my practice as well, that there is always hope, that I'm a firm believer in the underdog and a champion for them. Yeah. And I just think that even if you're family or friends or you're a significant other of somebody who's struggling with addiction, don't give up, just find the help, because there's always hope.
Yeah. And from you?
I was going to say exactly what Deirdre said about hope, but I believe in the inner potential of people to change. Given the right belief in them and support in them and assistance, I believe anybody can make a difference. Absolutely. And the addiction is such a dark place that there's no reason to actually stay there. Yeah. And to have hope and to have faith that it's possible.
Amen.
Desiree, how has your book been received?
I've had overwhelmingly positive response to the book, because I think people are connecting with the honesty and the rawness and just the authenticity of the writing, and it's resonating with people. They're just saying that happened to me too, you know, and I went through that too, and it's possible to change, you know.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with addiction, is when it gets so dark, people don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. People don't see, or they can't envisage, I suppose, a better life.
And it becomes that vicious circle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But what I always say to people is just take the next step.
Yes.
You don't have to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Just start. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, guys. So join us again tomorrow as we meet actress and musician Dawn Tandega King, who became famous for her role as Lindiwe Kulu in SABC's one's most popular soapie, Uzalo. Plus, we're joined by design house DM Zanzi on Fashion Express Thursdays.
Stunning. All right, we'll be back again tomorrow.
See you guys. Bye.
Good night. Happy eating. God bless.
Afternoon Express, made with love by Clover.
Another feel-good production.